Hey, y'all. If you want to head to our website to check out all the different things Pizzazz offers, then just head to pizzazzart.com. That's PZAZZART.com. You will see our online memberships. We've got Kids Club memberships, our Lettering Club membership, our one project a month membership. We call that Paint and Praise. You will see some freebies that we've got there for you, and you'll see our local classes if you're local. So head to the website, check it out, pizzazzart.com, PZAZZART.com. Hey, y'all, it's Casey Hope with the Here's Hope podcast. And today I've got a super special guest. We've got Miss Staci on. Staci, welcome to the podcast. Introduce yourself, tell everybody about who you are, where you're from, all the things.
Hey, everybody. My name is Staci Rowell. I currently live in Prattville, Alabama. Military wife of 32 years. I have two daughters. My oldest is graduating from med school this year to be a surgeon. Super proud of her. And then I've got a 13-year-old volleyball player that kind of started over. God gives you what you need. That's what I can say about that. And I've been in the Lettering Club probably since the second time Casey opened it. Just enjoy the friendships and the fellowships that I've been able to make through that. And I certainly adore you, Casey Hope.
Well, you are an encouragement to so many people. And I think this podcast is going to be a continued encouragement. So Staci, as y'all hear, she lives here in Prattville. So I knew her in real life and before ever starting the online. And I say real life just because sometimes you know people so well in the online space, but you don't really see them a lot. But with Staci, she's come into the studio, all the things before we ever started the club. And then, like she said, she's been in the Lettering Club for several years, been to our retreats, gotten to meet other people. And it's just been cool to see, like, she's just an encouragement to me. But what she has to share today, I hope encourages you. So before I get into kind of the phone call that you called a few weeks ago about, I want to just kind of have everybody think through. If you've listened to one of our recent podcasts, we talked to a girl who she was in a lot of depression type stuff and thinking, just kind of feeling lonely. And she really just realized part of her feeling was that she was not connected to real people. She was like, I was so busy with stuff. And yes, there's social media where you feel like, you're connected to people. And I will say, like, within our club, whenever we go live, I feel like that's a different level of social media connection. But when you're just on regular social media, you can comment on people's stuff, you can like their stuff, and you can have a sense of connection. But there's a whole different other level with truly being connected, with seeing somebody in real life, talking about real life stuff, real life laughing together. And I just think that we need more of that in this social media driven world. And so the other day I got a call from Staci and she was so excited and she was like, oh my gosh, Staci, I just got to tell you, I'm on cloud 9. And she proceeded to tell me why she was so excited. So I'm going to let her tell you why she was so excited. So what had just happened when you called me the other day, Staci?
Okay, I had just left church. I go to Centerpoint Fellowship Church here in Prattville. And we had just finished an event with 75, 76 ladies and children ranging from the age of 12 to well into the 80s. And we had just done a huge class and made prayer bowls. I had this idea and it came to fruition. And I got to watch people who had never met each other sit down and have conversations and exchange phone numbers and fellowship and praise worship music, all while making prayer bowls. And while I thought the prayer bowls were going to be the coup de grace, if you will, that was going to be the masterpiece for me was watching people interact and make connections. I felt so good when I left. I just had to call you.
I love it. I love it because you're just so well. I think the reason you were on such a high is because you are right in the middle of like so many of your giftings. You know, you are so gifted with people and with encouraging and with inspiring and with art stuff. And so, like, we had done these prayer bowls at our retreat last year. And this is any
Yes,
lettering club member. I want you to know, like, any of our stuff that we do, or not, I don't even mean lettering club member, anybody that sees any of our stuff online, whatever, you can use our projects to do exactly what Staci just did. Like, you use our projects to connect your circles, your church, your small group. We can give you the ideas all day long, and then you go out and make these connections happen. I love how you said it was ages 12 to 80, because yep, that's what art does. It's all ages. It's
yes.
all ages that are connected around the table. So tell me how, like, logistically, how did this work? Because what I want at the end of this kind of chat, I want people to start thinking, how can I do this? Because going back to real life connections being something that a lot of us are missing. A lot of us are at different stages of life,
Right,
and we are just sometimes you're so busy with kids that you don't have time for connections. Sometimes you are retired and out of the workforce, and therefore what used to be your real life interaction is taken away because you're not working anymore, and then you feel lonely because you're not working. So
right,
both ends of the spectrum can have this feeling of loneliness and actually even being in the middle of it. When you've got teenagers, sometimes all you're doing is dropping them off places. Yes, it's a busy schedule, but you're now not connected to the parents like you were whenever everybody was having class parties and they were little, because now you're just dropping them off at ball practice, dropping them off at gym. Now they're driving their own self, and so your connections can start to just get smaller. And so I love that, number one, you were very intentional. This did not just happen accidentally.
right.
You were intentional about, okay, I'm going to use art to bring people together at my church. So what did that look like? What were the steps you took to get that going?
Okay. Well, first, I need to interject something here. This is not something I shared with you, Casey. I usually present myself pretty assertive and with it and put together, but the couple weeks before this event, I had a meltdown. I just had a mental, I had a maybe a geriatric moment, if you will, where I just had a pity party. And I'm 54. What have I done with my life? I've been in education 21 years. I'm just a secretary. Like, I don't have anything to show for my life. My daughter's graduating from med school. Yay, her. My husband's a colonel in the Air Force. He's done all these great things. And what do I have to show for anything? Now, we all know that being a parent is the most important job. So I had things, but I couldn't see past my own pity. So I have had in my mind for several years, while I don't consider, and I've never considered myself an artist, if you will, I have had it in my mind that I want to do something because I do love people
Mm-hmm.
and I do have a servant's heart and I want to teach people and I want to fellowship with people. So we had an event at church and I just used some of my glass art on display to jazz it up a little bit to make it pretty. And several people said, "Oh my gosh, where did you get that? How can I do that? Can you show me? Would you teach a class?" And after 3 or 4 of those this one day, I looked at my best friend and I said, "I think we can do this." So I started doing a little bit of research. How much can I get prayer bowls for? How much will glass cost? How much resin do I need? What other supplies? And I put together a proposal and I took it to the leaders of our church and said, "Hey, we do a lot of activities, but they're usually a Bible study, if you will. We go in and we'll listen to Priscilla Shire and then we'll have a discussion. But what if we did something with our hands? What if we did something, an activity where we just didn't listen and regurgitate, where we actually were able to talk with people, learn about people, make something and have something tangible, tactile that we could walk away with?" And I presented it such that, hey, I don't need to make anything off of this. I just want to do it as a service. And the church said, "How much does it cost?" I gave them a price of all of the materials. And the church said, "Hey, how about if we pay half and then the guests only have to pay half?" And I thought, dang, that's awesome. So we put it out there and originally we were just going to do 50. That's a good number to do a class like that. Well, they didn't turn off the guest list. And so it grew a little bit and they called and said, how many can you do? And I said, well, we set it at 50. And they said, well, we're at 74. And I said, we'll take them. We will
Yeah.
take them. We will take them. And so we ordered more supplies, went in and set up. Didn't take us that long. And the activity was about 2 hours. And in that 2 hours, I got completely filled up. Like Jesus was in the room. It was, oh, I was in tears. It was just great.
I love it, love it, love it. And thank you for being vulnerable with sharing the stinking thinking that you were
Oh, it
going
was
through.
stinking thinking for sure.
Because when you say those exact examples of what was going through your mind, I guarantee there is somebody on the other side that's in tears because they're like, that's exactly where I am. They're thinking the same crap because the devil schemes. He ain't really all that crafty. He kind of says the same lies to everybody.
Right.
And so there's somebody else that he's saying those exact same lies to as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I just think that it's such an important thing to notice. Like you were in your pity party, you were in your stinking thinking. But the thing that got you out of that was taking action towards something. So often I feel like we can get in those little pity parties and we can say these things to ourselves. Going back to like the feeling of loneliness and connection, you can just lie to yourself. Well, nobody's calling me to do anything. Well, nobody's asking me, whatever. And it's like, how about you be the one asking other people?
Right, right.
So that's exactly what you did. Like you were like, okay, like I am feeling a little and then you put something into place that used all your gifts, and that you felt so full because you were right in the middle of using your gifts, and you saw the fruit of it. You saw the people laughing together and connecting together, and in a church environment. Like were there people there that maybe like that are not part of y'all's church that were just invited to come?
Yeah,
So,
we had probably half the people didn't go to our church.
Yeah. So I think I really, and I told you, I'm like, this is just what I see and what I have a heart for and what I have a vision for, that I want to keep providing resources to where we can do these type of things. And it can be in a church or it can be at a house or it can be wherever, that we are still having Jesus as the focus, no doubt.
Absolutely.
But the art, the Bible journaling, the craft, that brings so many people of all ages, people who maybe don't normally go to a Bible study because maybe it's intimidating. Like when you mentioned doing a Bible study, I love doing those Bible studies, but I've seen, they'll start out strong, a lot of people in it. By the time it's over, hardly nobody's in it because people stop coming because they feel like they're behind or just different things. But these type of things, it's a one-time event. Of course, you can do it multiple times, but it's a one-time event to where people don't feel like they have to be intimidated of. I think sometimes people are nervous to do like a traditional Bible study because they think, I don't know the Bible good enough. I don't want to go in there. They might ask me questions that I don't know. But if you can have something that is not intimidating, says, hey, let's come do some art, but at the same time, work in whatever else you want. It can work in a devotional. I'm doing that at a church coming up pretty soon. They're doing a devotion and like a door hanger or something. But if you can do both, like point to Jesus, maybe teach a little something that will give some nourishment for somebody who is maybe a new believer or not a believer or trying to understand it, but do it in a way that is just not threatening. Just come to the table of art. A lot of it, I feel like people will come to the table for two things, food and art. There might be more things, but I feel like when I think about gathering around a table, I'm like, you can do that in the kitchen table or a dinner table. People will gather around and talk and all the things. But art, I've seen the same thing. You put out art supplies and people just gather around.
Oh, people are drawn to it for sure.
And so I think it's just such a cool ministry that so many people can do right where they are. And let me go back to another little stinking thinking I heard you say. You said, I don't consider myself an artist. You are such an artist. Like, I mean, come on now. You are so good. And I think people get hung up on that too. They think, well, I'm not the best. And I will say, like, you don't got to be the best. You just got to know a little bit more than the people that you're teaching. That's all. Like,
that's right. And, and that was one thing. Some of the older ladies were really nervous It's
Uh-huh.
like the younger people weren't so much. They were like, "Oh, I'm just going to wing it and see what I can do." Some of the older ladies were really concerned with things being perfect
Oh yeah. Yep.
or and so, I would sit down beside them and say, "Look how easy this is." And we would,
Mhm.
just make shapes. And so some of their bowls were absolutely stunning.
Mhm.
And it was so wonderful to see.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this has turned into, we're going to do this once a month with different projects.
I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah,
think
because
it's so,
glass art isn't for everybody, but
yeah,
painting on a canvas might not be either.
right.
So we're going to put it out there. If you want to participate that month, you do. And I said, hey, well, let's try it through, the end of the year. If it's something that we want to keep doing, I am happy to do it because it's
Yeah.
not a play.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I hear you. And again, I just want to just tell any, like, I say lettering club members. I don't mean just lettering club members, but I'm just thinking
Oh,
lettering club
anybody for
members
sure.
has such a library of stuff in there. So like if you're like, I don't know what to do, if you're a lettering club member, you got a whole library of stuff to do. But also you can, there's tons of stuff on YouTube. You can scroll Pinterest. You can find some ideas to just start your own little something something. So if somebody is listening and they're like, "Oh, that does sound great," and I do like art, and I don't have to be the world's best artist. All I gotta do is present a fun activity to the table. What would you tell them are some next steps?
The first thing I think you really need to do is look at your venue. Like how in your mind, how big is it? Do you have the space for that? Because that really dictated a lot of things for me. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
were going to do a large group project, it couldn't be so detailed. It had to be something that was pretty simple. If you
Right,
some people aren't going to look at it as simple, but glass art to me is super simple.
right.
So and it didn't take a lot of materials.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very few. So I think you look at your space, you look at your time constraint, you look at your audience. For what I did with the glass art, it didn't, 12 to 80, it was fine. But perhaps if I was doing something a little more detail oriented, I wouldn't want to do that with some much older folks because maybe their hands aren't quite as sturdy, or they
Right.
shift a little bit. So you have to look at your space, the time constraint, and your audience. And then once you narrow those things down, make your list of materials, do your research. How much does it take? I called you and asked you, or I messaged you and said, hey, how much glass was in that packet? Like in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and so then make your list and then you've got a price, you've got somewhere to start. Is it something that you want to make money off of? Well, of course you have to build that in. Is it something you're going to do as a service? And then look for sponsors. If it's something that you don't want to charge people for, but you can't afford it yourself, look for sponsors. Because I had talked to Michaels and I had talked to Hobby Lobby, and they were willing to donate some supplies
Oh,
um,
wow. That's
if
a
we
great
needed
tip.
it. Which we didn't need it, but because the church
Mm-hmm.
picked up the half of the cost. And I think that my biggest piece of advice, besides all of those material things, besides all the things that you have to actually put the event on, is decide you want to do something and act on it. It took
Mm-hmm.
me a couple years to finally step out. I listened to all my lettering club, my bros of the lettering club, if you will, and all the things they had done. And I was like, golly, I think I can do that, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
scared, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that I can pull it off. And so just believe in yourself and listen to God. And when
Mm-hmm.
he gives you that directive, you have to be willing to accept it and act on it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that action is so important. Like almost sometimes I have to act on things like just put a date out there that we're gonna do something
Yes, yes.
before I've even planned the whole thing because that I will be accountable 100%. If you're counting on me to be this on this date, I'll be accountable. So sometimes it is just literally putting a date on your calendar, making
Mhm.
a post. Hey, we're doing this on this day. Who wants to join? And then go. Or maybe it's picking up the phone, calling, your women's minister at church or wherever. Hey, I'm
Sure.
going to do this. Like say it before you have all the plans because we think that we have to have all the plans and
That's
all the
right.
things figured out first. But if you will do that first action of
Yeah.
putting it on the calendar or making the call or whatever, then that's gonna kick you in gear to do all the other things. Because the logistical stuff, it'll feel like a lot, and then you'll run into roadblocks, and then you won't do it. But if you are accountable to somebody else and you've already talked to them about doing it, whether it's inviting the people to come or the person who's in charge of the venue or whatever, that there's something about that kind of kicks it in gear. I don't know if you saw inside the Lettering Club Facebook page this morning, there was two things that I was just like, oh, I love it. It was Jenny Turnell. She was teaching lettering
Yes.
to a group just with Bible journals and lettering and traceables. And then Val and Angela got
together. I saw that. I loved it.
And they were with like some
Yeah.
Lettering Club members and some people from their church, and just got together and did art. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. This is what I love. I love it. I love it because it is bringing people together. Art is just the thing that brings it. And then the connections, the real life connections are made all over. And it can be in groups of, like Val and Angela's group looked about like 5 people. So it can be 5 people, it can be 75 people. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get the benefits of being with people and creating and focusing your mind on Jesus and whatever is true and good and lovely and all the things. You're going to get the benefits of it. So
Absolutely.
So I was super excited for you and to see what God is doing in your life. And I just wanted you to come share. And so thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Encourage somebody. Anything else you want to say in closing to anybody I know you've given them lots of tips. You told them just to act. Anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, so, when you said, you just got to make that first step, in that you have to have that moment. And I don't have to know all of the steps. I just have to know the next step. And so when I decided that day, I was sitting waiting for church to start, and I looked at my best friend and I said, today's the day. And I just got up and I went out, found one of the associate pastors and said, hey, I want to do this thing. I don't have all the details yet, but can we pick a date? And he said, well, let's pick a date and then get back to me. And like you said, now I've spoken, now my name's out there. I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to know all of the steps, ladies and gentlemen. You just have to take that next step, and then God will direct you from there.
Love it. And that is what God does in all of life. All of life. It's like the next step and the next step and the next step. It is very rare that he shows you 5 or 6 steps down the road. So
well, I appreciate you for taking your next step, because joining the Lettering Club was great, and it was fulfilling, and I had a great time, and I loved my Happy Mail. But that first retreat, I met some of the best people I have ever met in my entire life. And, one person specifically is like my person. Whenever I am feeling something, it's like we have Wonder Twin powers. Like, I'll get a text from her, not even expecting it. And that is because of you, Casey Hope. And I am so incredibly thankful for all that you do for all of us.
Well, thank you, but that is not because of me. That's because of God. Because
that too, yes, ma'am, but
I could not have known who was going to be in that beach house that first.
Oh my gosh.
But I sure did pray. I prayed for the right people, and I prayed. And I was that first beach retreat. Even now, we're getting ready to do our next Peace and Play, and for the Peace and Play retreat, everybody is like 2 to a room. And sometimes, sometimes they know each other, sometimes they don't. Well, on this retreat, there was very few of y'all that knew each other, and y'all were going to be sharing a bed. I was like, I was praying hard on that. I was looking at who I partnered. I'm like, okay, God, you are going to please direct my steps on who I'm partnering up in the same room. Please, just prayers over everything. And that week was such a cool thing to see that God, how was it, 16 people? I forgot the number.
Total
Okay. And I was like, how rare is it that there's this many women? Nobody has gotten on each other's nerves.
It was the best.
I mean, nobody has been catty. No, it was
not at
love and friendship and laughter until we about couldn't laugh anymore. It was all the things. And all of that goes back to exactly what we're talking about, real life connection. We had an extended time of real life connection there because we were all in the same house for multiple days. Same thing at the retreat coming up. It's extended. We're all eating our meals together. We're all, doing art together.
I'm going to miss you guys.
I know. I'm going to miss y'all too. It's the same concept as connection, real life connection. We all need it. We were made for it. And if we can do something to initiate it in our lives, we're going to be blessed for it. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks
We'll
for
see you
having me. I
soon.
appreciate it.
You're going to encourage lots of people. I know. All right. See you. See you.
Bye.
Bye. I hope y'all enjoyed that podcast. Y'all be sure to go like, subscribe this, leave a review. Let us know how you're liking it. We like that feedback. And if you want to follow us on other social platforms, on Instagram, it's Pizzazz Art Studio. Same for Facebook. And Pizzazz is P-Z-A-Z-Z. Pizzazz Art Studio. Go check us out and see what all we have to offer over there.